Welcome to Accounting High.
Transitioning from order taker to a menu creator. Accountants are typically order takers. They wait for someone to come up to their window. Tax return, please. Yes, we can do that. Whatever the person is ordering is what drives what you do. Think about every fancy restaurant.
Small menus.
Small menu and specialized with very, very specific ingredients that they buy in limited quantity. It creates an experience. It creates high value. We're going to make it all about the experience they have as opposed to just shelling out Big Macs all day.
Welcome back, Accounting High. Now it's time for social studies. We'll teach you new creative ways to market old product. If you watch how they post, you'll see it's all authentic and genuine. Grow a following and don't get held back by perfection. Be intentional online, create content. Now that's hot. Strategy is key with social media and pods. Start slow, pick up platforms, stick to it and go post. Make a plan to engage with client watering holes. Create a focus brand, be a lead online. It's a digital world with the best ROI. Now create your own ideal client persona. Let's go. Keyword Accounting High and get ready to blow. It's time for social studies, accounting content hub, LinkedIn marketing or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love if you're into social studies.
Introducing the star of our show,
Scotty and Shannon.
We're gonna have a problem here.
Class is in session. Thank you for joining me, Shannon Weinstein from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Students, you're in for a treat. This episode is going to be chock full of information, so get your notepads out and start taking notes. Shannon, tell our students where you're calling from. I know I already gave it away. I already said Costa Rica.
Yes, I'm calling in from Costa Rica, Guanacaste, Costa Rica, and I'm from the Boston area originally.
So for our students, I'll just give the little brief how we were introduced. So our very popular episode with Paul Seaton, Paul was talking about his coach, and he mentioned maybe that would be a good connection for you because I had just returned from Costa Rica. He connected us, and boom, we hit it off immediately. We were chatting, text. We had a call after, and I wish we recorded our first call because it was... I don't want to waste our students' time too much with me chatting right now. I want you to get started, but I want to know, how did you end up, first, how did you end up as a CPA? And then let's get to how did you get from Boston to Costa Rica?
Absolutely. I love a good accountant origin story, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I started in accounting because I lost a bet with my dad in high school. And that started the whole trajectory.
Really? Well,
yeah.
What was this bet?
So the bet was, now he was a CPA. That's really relevant. And ever since I was yay big in kindergarten, my dad would ask me, do you want to be an accountant when you grow up? And I'm like, no. Because that's what you say when you're a kid and you don't really know the answer. Just like, I don't want to make my parents happy though. So I'm going to say no. And I said that all through middle school, then into high school. He would always ask me.
You don't want to give them the satisfaction.
No, of course you don't. You want to be like, no, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to rebel. I'm going to do something fun. There was this class in high school where you would learn accounting and you had to take it for 2 semesters the whole year. And it satisfied an elective credit. And my dad said to me, like, you're missing this one elective credit. Take this class. If you hate it, I will never ask you again if you want to be an accountant. I will never bother you again. But if you love it, you need to major in it. And then I said, well, this is kind of a win-win situation. And that's like high stakes because you have no idea how annoying he was asking me that. So I said, okay, you're on. I'll take the class and I'm going to hate it. 2 weeks later, I was bumped to honors accounting with over 100 average and I absolutely loved it. I just thought this was so easy. And he pulled me aside and said, Shannon, and by the way, I wanted to teach Spanish. That was actually my passion, was I wanted to be a Spanish teacher because my Spanish was my favorite subject. And he pulled me aside and said, if you understand this, if this is easy, this is the language you need to be teaching.
The language you need to be teaching.
This is the language you need to be teaching. He said, this is the language of business and nobody speaks it. And you need to serve in this way because less people understand this. He's like, Spanish you can use doing anything. You could be any profession and utilize Spanish. This is a language that you need to be teaching because people need to learn it.
But you can also utilize this in any profession too.
100%. So he convinced me that it was the most versatile and gave me the most choices as I grew up. And I'm ever grateful for my, 16, 17-year-old advice that I got, which was just do the thing that earns you the most choices in your life, because this will change.
Don't parents know best?
Mine did.
Yeah,
I listened to him.
Though. Yeah.
Yeah. From that day on, I always took Dad's advice because he was so wise in telling me that. And it proved to be right time and time again.
You were able to grasp that analogy right there, then and there. And I guess you answered the question how you ended up in Costa Rica, because you love to speak Spanish.
I do. But also, that's another story about my husband and his parents. But they loved to vacation. They went on cruises down in Central America. They loved Costa Rica. It was one of their favorites. They ended up snowbirding here one year. And what ended up happening was they decided to stay for 3 months. They invited us down for 2 weeks to stay with them. I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with the country like day one. And what ended up happening was we came back, and unfortunately, my husband's father got sick. We found out it was actually pancreatic cancer. And what we ended up doing was deciding, and this was actually in 2020 when COVID hit, we said, okay, that's it. We're buying him a house down there. We're going to make sure that they can stay in Costa Rica as long as they want to. And that's actually how we bought the house down here. And unfortunately, the story ends with, we bought the house in May. It was supposed to be ready in September. And unfortunately, he passed in July. So it was a really quick and painful experience for our family. But it was also kind of an awakening to be like, live now and don't wait and to do things like this, like to make decisions like this or to move to Costa Rica. Like, oh, I would love to do that one day. Well, why not today? Like, why not tomorrow? Why not start the process now to do that? Because it's very doable. And it's kind of crazy to think now we've been here for 4 years and spending the majority of our year here now.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful climate. You still have a residency in Boston?
Yeah, so we live in Connecticut when we're in the States, and then we live down here for, I would say it's probably 7 months here, 5 months there, vice versa, any given year right now. So
for our students, you also own and operate a practice. That's right.
Yeah.
Tell me how you got started in your practice.
So I worked in Big Four for a while. I worked in technical sales at a software company, actually, and I worked in internal audit, and I worked in FP&A. So I've kind of touched so many different dimensions of accounting and just said, I really want to work with small businesses. I want to work directly with people who can make decisions, and I want to make a bigger impact. I think we all kind of crave that if we start our own companies. It's because we want to get directly involved in the results of our clients and get rid of a lot of these habits and cultural elements that we grow out of from public accounting. There's got to be a way I can do this and not work 80-hour weeks. Like, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a better way. I think especially for us millennials, we're all just like getting innovative and going, there's got to be a way to do this faster, or there's got to be a way to do this better. And I'm going to go make the way, or I'm going to go find out, because I don't see anyone doing it the way I want to do it. So I decided to start my own practice and build it so that it could work around my life and not the other way around. And I started that in 2019, and I quit my full-time job in 2021. So I was building that on the side until I knew that it could support me cash flow wise. And
going back to what your dad said to you at an early age, you're not really teaching anybody when you're working at the Big Four, you're working for those larger firms. You can't really have an impact, and you can't share that love and help them learn this language of love that you've learned here. You've got 2 love languages, Spanish and finance. Yes. You're now speaking finance.
It's so funny you say that, Scott, too, because I actually have a T-shirt that says "Cash flow is my love language," and we
no way,
actually,
really?
we actually sell those on the Keep What You Earn website. So,
oh man, maybe you planted it subconsciously, because I'm sure I've seen it.
So really, it was such an easy connection for me to tap into what I love to do, which is teach. It kind of became the profession to the passion. That's actually why I started the podcast and everything else, was because I just really wanted to teach and tap into that skill set and tap into developing that a lot more that I wasn't getting in the big firms. Like, I wasn't getting yes, you get to speak, you get to train, but a lot of it's scripted and the PowerPoints are already there for you, and you really don't infuse any personality into it. And what actually drove me into my practice was getting to do it my way. And like, sometimes I swear, and that's okay. And I can do that in my marketing, and I can do that on my show. I can be fully myself authentically and attract the clients I want to, repel the clients I don't, without feeling forced to serve clients I didn't pick. And that was actually a big part of it.
Yeah. And you can be you. That's one thing that's hard for a lot of people in business is they think they need to separate that. They think they need to be that different person when they go into the office. And I think you saw that was a valuable skill that you learned early, was that you can be you and attract the clients that you want. And then you're not growing a business that you resent in the end, because everybody in there is part of you. You know, they were attracted to you in the first place. So you don't have to go and be something else. Because then what happens when you decide you want to be yourself at the office? Those people that you attracted early on now are turned off by this. This is like, who is this new person? So that's very valuable, especially as an early stage business owner. Who were some of the people you followed early on, or who did you learn from?
So I credit a lot of my initial push, my initial momentum to my business coach, which was Jess Glazer. She works a lot with fitness professionals, actually, which I worked in fitness for 10 years as well on the side. And I got to know her, and she was building these online brands, these online businesses through organic social media. And I was like, what is this? Like, my Instagram is full of pictures of my dog and dinners and all the stuff we did in, 2018 on Instagram. So I just said, how do I do that? Like, how do I turn Instagram into like a brand builder? This is like so new to me. And she really taught me everything about that platform and about how to like leverage an email list and create freebies and do all these things that I feel like are much more commonly talked about now. But in 2018, like, I was on Zoom before Zoom was cool during COVID. Like, I was on Zoom doing calls with people, and it was so much fun. So I credit her with a lot of that. And then I've had mentors along the way, including Michael King, including, Mel Abraham, CFO Accelerator, yes. Yeah. And Mel Abraham, who's a dear mentor of mine now. And it's just been awesome to have so many different voices to influence me, because, and choosing those voices, like, I really want to focus on mindset. I really want to focus on my marketing. I kind of know who to go to in those spaces to influence me in the right way. I feel like when it comes to mentorship, you really have to kind of almost pick a major of, what do I really want to be working on right now? And who do I go to who's doing that really well, so I can align with them and learn from them.
So pick a major, and those are your teachers. You chose your faculty, and you continued on, because I don't think we learn a lot of this stuff in school either. Running a business and all this, you got to learn on your own. You got to roll your sleeves up and find those teachers out there. And there's a lot of them. And I think that's all part of what we're going to talk about today too. And what we're going to continue going deeper is becoming an educator and becoming a teacher in your chosen field. And through means of sharing that media, you've found doing a podcast has been very beneficial to you and your practice. Let's go back to the still early stages. Where did you find the magic and start growing? Like, at what point did you decide, I am going to take this full time?
So it started with, I can get clients and do this, but I hit a critical capacity limit where I realized that in order for me to do what I was doing, which was at the time tax preparation, bookkeeping, and accounting, I knew that in order for me to do this, I needed far more clients, and which means I needed to actually build a firm, like build a practice. And one of my goals was actually not to build a huge practice. Like, that was not my goal. It was to stay small, stay manageable, stay low stress. I really wanted like low client count, low stress, low team, and make money doing it. And I said, is that not possible? Right? I go, why couldn't I keep it small, but do more for these clients and keep it more high value? So I actually transitioned into fractional CFO. And that was probably where that growth spurt happened, because I've actively decided that I was going to let go of 80 clients, transition them on, pass them on to other providers. And I was going to move forward having a limit of 12 clients and saying, I'm not going to serve more than 12 clients, but I'm going to do every damn thing for them to make them successful. And I'm going to charge accordingly for it and make sure that they're at a revenue level where they can afford my services. But I'm going to pour my heart and soul into those people. And that was really where the growth happened, because I was fully committed to the service of those clients like I am a member of their team, as opposed to putting them through, say, a machine or an assembly line that I had built, where I had this team that was cranking out tax returns or cranking out monthly books, which, hey, if you're doing that, no problem. That's just not the business model I wanted once I realized that I was fully in control of how I wanted to serve.
That was the magic, was the mindset around what you wanted to build, and create that in your mind, have that vision of what it looks like. And then you can tackle it backwards. And then you can start attacking how you want that to be built. I love that you had an idea in mind, a number of clients, and what this looks like, because not a lot of people do when they start out in practice and they let it overtake them. And if they do find growth, sometimes it's in accidental ways, and they continue to grow, and then they grow with a client base that they may resent over time too.
100% happened to me. That's what happened to me. And I had to make that choice and say, how did I get here where I feel like I created another job? I just built another job I work at, and now I'm just on the hook for everything, and I can't call anyone for help. I'm like, wait, this is not better. This is actually worse, and I'm making less money. So I'm going, wait a second, how did I end up here? And the other thing that had to shift for me too, Scott, was transitioning from order taker to a menu creator. And that was the biggest thing. Was I love food analogies. If anyone listens to my show, I love food. So I said accountants are typically order takers. They wait for someone to come up to their window, order their food, and then they give them the food. And it's pretty simple. It's just like, tax return, please. Yes, we can do that. And typically whatever the person is ordering is what drives what you do. So like, person comes to your window, you really don't care who they are, what they do, how big they are, how much they make. You're going, okay, yeah, I can do that for you. I have the skills, I have the tools, I have the ingredients back here to go make that for you. So I'm going to make it for you. Versus starting with think about every fancy restaurant and every Michelin star chef. Small menu, and specialized with very, very specific ingredients that they buy in limited quantity, because they know that I'm going to sell a little bit less, or I'm going to have less customers in the room, or it's going to be a smaller, more intimate space. But there's a reason for that, because it creates an experience. It creates high value. We're going to make it all about the experience they have, as opposed to just shelling out Big Macs all day. So I said, how do I shift into that type of ambiance and experience in what I do? Because I didn't want to just be shelling out orders all day and taking orders from people I didn't even want to serve. I said, what if I could be more selective about who has access to me and access to my space and my business, and I could curate a menu of, this is what I know will be optimally successful for you as an expert, like as your Michelin chef, if you will. I know what tastes good, or I know what the good combination is. So what if I said, here are your combinations. This is what will guarantee your success. Anything less than that is a table with 3 legs. It will not stand up. It will not support you. So anything less than this will be subpar, and I'm not going to serve that. So I'm going to serve you what's on my menu, and don't mess with it. and I just said, that's it. But I'm going to serve the people who are willing to sign on for that experience. And believe it or not, there are enough of those people to go around where you will not have a problem. And that was what most accountants, I think, have to overcome, is that I would love to do that, but will anybody actually do it? Yes, they will.
There's plenty. The other thing too, that it's important to note, when we talk a lot about picking an industry vertical, but you were very clear with, you don't have an industry vertical necessarily, right?
Yeah, yes and no. I focus mostly on professional services, mostly service-based businesses, but I pay more close attention to the founder and the stage of business maturity that they're in, based on what problems we can uniquely solve for them. And that's what is more my thing, is I'm looking for ones that are looking for growth, scalability. They don't have a forecast. They need to be looking future focused. They've been too focused on looking in the rearview mirror in the past. They don't necessarily know how to read their profit and loss optimally. Their financial statements are done for tax purposes, not management reporting. And they're starting to understand the difference between those things, which is key. It's really like looking at that stage of evolution for a business. And industry will become secondary. Now, we do have our preferences, but for me, it's all about being able to uniquely serve someone who's sitting in that seat and solving those problems.
So that's your ideal client profile, or
right,
persona, not necessarily an industry niche. So that's this one common misconception too about having an ideal client profile, is it doesn't necessarily have to be an industry niche. Particularly, you have a general idea of what types of industries they could be in, but it's just an industry type. And I think that's also important to delineate the difference, because you see your client, you have a vision of who they are. And so then when it comes to creating your marketing and doing that for your practice, let's hear how you got started doing that, because it sounds like you know who you're marketing to, and that makes it a lot easier to create all the marketing materials and to create the content.
Yeah, and understanding who you're marketing to, or what industry you want to serve, or what niche you want to be targeting, is really a way of saying, what problem are you solving for? And that is going to help define the problems you solve. And that is the most important element, because when you understand what problems you solve, you can then speak to those problems and speak to the solutions, where now you're going to be attracting people who can relate to those problems and attracting the people who want those solutions. So if you're talking about, hey, did you know the difference between tax reporting and management reporting? Did you know that you can actually customize your QuickBooks to help you make decisions the other 364 days of the year instead of doing all of your chart of accounts designed for that one day that you're reporting on it? So if I say something like that in a video or even in a post, right, there are business owners who are like, wait, what? And they're going to say, oh my God, I didn't know that. Or they might reach out to me, and maybe it's a post, maybe it's a podcast, whatever it is. I'm probably going to record that episode at some point. But what we have to do is be informing people about how their life could be better than it is now with this information, or just knowing that, hey, I want to share this with you as I'm looking out for you. And I know that you could probably do better at whatever your goal is. So it's really understanding their problems and their goals and being able to really speak to that and to reach them so that they're able to listen to that and understand that you're here to serve them.
You had this idea. Was this modeled off of your best clients? How did you create this persona?
Oh man, this is going to sound so funny. I had a really hard time coming up with, like, I went through this exercise, and it was, think about your best clients and their common features or their common traits and why you like them. And then we did this exercise where we said, think about your worst clients and their common traits and their common, like, issues they have. I had a way easier time with the second one. Mm-hmm. Like, if you think about every, like, Yelp review, all the good reviews are like, food was great, service awesome, 5 stars, 10 out of 10 recommend, thank you. Every bad Yelp review is Pride and Prejudice. It is 3 or 4 paragraphs, very specific. And I said, you know what it is? Our brains are wired to almost pick up on every little detail. Like, we're already writing the Yelp review as soon as the person's late to the table. You know what I mean? Like, you're going, now I'm hyper attentive to everything they do to piss me off. And there's a reason. And I don't know the science behind this, but I do think that our brain remembers the negative things easier than the positive. We remember negative feedback. We don't remember getting praised. We remember all the things that the critiques that hit us. So I realized that I had that.
I just recently heard a podcast about this, and there's peak moments, and there's, I guess, I don't think they call it valley, but there's other moments, and we tend to remember both.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the pits, or whichever there are. Yeah, exactly. And then so we'll remember the worst parts of that, and that's what will stick with us, unless there was some peak that overshadowed that or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what I did was I leaned into that, and I said, I can write an essay on everything that my worst clients make me mad about. But I have to, like, really dig and go, what do I really like about these people? And that I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leverage this and flip it. So I said, I'm going to make a list of all the things that tick me off about my worst clients. But I'm going to then spin that into why they have now tripwired a core value of mine, because that is how that happens. That's actually how core values get generated for me, and core truths that we have in our business, and why what I want to attract. I say, turns out I really value timeliness. I really value responsiveness. I really value engagement and presence on phone calls. I really value these things. Why? Because the people who would tick me off were, like, in the car while on a call with me, totally not paying attention, driving, or they never responded to my emails, never got me what I needed. I had to follow up 10 times. Like, everybody has this client that is, like, phoning it in. And I said, you know what? How do I take all of that and spin that into, well, this is what I value, and then spin that into, well, here's who I want to attract, and, like, how do I find the opposite of that quality? And I say, I really value presence. I really value engagement. I really value responsiveness and attentiveness and collaboration with your service provider. So when you start spinning that, you go, okay, that's what I value, because I was really affected when those things weren't present in that relationship.
I love that. So you did it almost the opposite of what you were supposed to do. And you had the same results, but better too, because now you knew what to look out for and what to stay away from. So you took the antithesis of the things that were the worst. Love that.
Yeah.
Then what was the next step in attracting those people that you wanted more of?
So I actually, believe it or not, I actually started doing a little bit of rappel marketing. And that was really fun. I would go on social media And it would be I would play off these little trends because back in 2021, 2022, we were all in like the reels, like everyone was copying TikTok on Instagram, and it was kind of fun and making videos. And I'm the type of person, like not like a lot of accountants, where I actually like doing videos. I think they were funny. And I would do these kind of funny videos, like making fun of, I would say like, here are the 5 types of clients that we don't want to work with. And it would be like the one that doesn't believe in email, the one that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like we would go through all these like personas
that were the anti to another level.
Yeah. No, like here are here are the 5 clients who shouldn't work with us. But it was like these hyperbolic characterizations of these people, like people who don't believe in email or people who don't do this or don't do that, but everybody would laugh along with it and be like, haha, yeah, like that's such a, mean thing to do. Who would want to work with that person? And in a way, it was making the people laugh who agreed with me that like, oh, yeah, that's like really crappy. Like who would want to work with that? I'm like, I know. Hey, you think that's crappy too. Do you need help with CFO services?
Yeah.
Because it would be like, they would laugh along with it and go, yeah, I vibe with her. I vibe with Shannon because I agree that's funny. So in a weird way, it's not always about attracting through like education and the content and all that. Sometimes it's a little bit of that, just like showing who you are and what you care about in a very indirect way through humor or through what you're saying to describe like, this is important to me. And if they agree and say it's also important to me, values alignment is one of the stickiest things that will keep a relationship, a professional relationship, a personal relationship, anything will keep it together, is when you guys are aligned on core values as a fundamental foundation.
So what did you call these? These weren't core values. These were like the anti-core values. These are the opposite, right?
Well, yeah, they're violations of our core values, right?
So they're violations.
Yeah, core violations. Yeah. And we went one step further with the core values talk, and we went into core truths. So instead of phrasing them as values, we phrase them as truths. So how we do that is like, you might say core value is integrity. Like everyone has integrity on that poster somewhere, right?
I do. That's one of our
core value, integrity. But like, what does that mean to your team? Like, what does that really mean to your team in terms of integrity? What does that mean to you? Because that is a subjectively defined word.
It's the most elusive thing. It's the one that we can't define and the one that we can't point out. We can only point out when people don't have integrity.
So what we do is we would put, now integrity isn't one of, obviously I have value integrity, but it's not one of the ones on our list. But if I were putting integrity on my list of core values, I would instead phrase it, like I would say integrity, doing the right thing even when no one's watching. That's
what it says underneath ours.
Right. But I would put exactly
what it says. I love how we've done this before.
Yes.
Funny.
I know. Like this is why I'm so surprised we haven't talked before. But it's the same type of idea of doing the right things when no one's watching. But it's like, define your core value as a statement, because then it will mean something more. Like we say collaboration's a core value, and one of them is like, we work with our clients, not for them. We work with our clients, not for them. And that statement means something to us. And we actually put that in our client onboarding, in our employee onboarding, to say, we work with you, not for you. So we are respected collaborators and professionals. And, it's basically like saying, you can't just boss us around to tell us what to do. We are valued advisors and we're here to work with you. But we are not going to just do what you ask us to do blindly. We are going to give you an opinion. We're going to advise you. We're going to work with you, but we don't work for you.
And that's a big part of their team.
Part of your
ally.
team. Exactly. A part of your team. It's a collaboration, and it's not a hierarchy in a sense. We're sitting on the table beside you in that boardroom. It's not just like you're talking down to us in a cubicle. We really want to bring ourselves to that level with the client and say we're a respected peer and leader in your organization too. And that's a big thing, but also for our employees, because when I say that is a fundamental thing, that is a mindset shift for most accounting employees to understand. Like, I work for the client. No, you don't. We work with the client. Like, don't just take don't get scared when the client sends you something and they're like, can you please do this? Like, don't do it right away. Think about it. Think about those things first. We work with them, not for them. It's not just about like the client is always right all the time. And that's a really important mindset shift to make if you're going to work with us.
And you can reinforce that. You can reframe their mindset too. So it's important for you to stay active and actively listen. That's you just taught me something very valuable, and I think I could take that with me. Students, you do that as well. It starts with being this ultra intentional. You really attacked this. What do we have any others or other things?
Oh gosh, our core values really are like innovation, curiosity, candor, those types of things, growth. We really want lifelong learning. That was a big one. When it comes to core values of our employees, we have like the core traits we look for as well in our employees. And one of them is lifelong learners. And we try to back that up with sponsoring them if they want to go out and get training. We sponsor CPEs, obviously, but there's beyond that. There's personal development. There's reimbursing them for books they want to read or courses they want to take that will just help them become better leaders or better managers or whatever skills they may want to develop. That's really important to us, is that everybody's constantly learning. And we actually have them log education hours in any area, literally any area. If they want to go learn like dog training, that's fine. I don't care. Or like basket weaving or whatever it is, paint by number, I don't care. But you can come back and I want you to log the hours you spent learning this month and share something you learned. Something you learned that we can all benefit from as a team. And every team meeting we have every month, I'm just like we go through the lifelong learning tracker because people will upload what they learned. And it's really cool to like reflect back on, say, a few months or a quarter or a year of, look, everything we learned this year, guys. Like, look at this whole year in little merit badges that we gathered. That's really important to me, to build that culture.
That's moments right there too. That's so cool. I love that. That's another great takeaway. So what's the size of your team right now?
So right now we are about, we're 6 people.
6 people.
Total.
And how many clients do you guys have?
We have 8 clients right now.
8 clients. And what is the average client paying you?
Between $5,000 and $6,000 a month.
$5,000 and $6,000 a month. Again, our students, pay close attention to what Shannon is doing, because she's the expert here and has cultivated and crafted a firm that is almost at capacity, but not quite at capacity too. You're running this and you still have some more runway to go to get to where you've intended. How many years has it been so far to get to these 8?
So I will say that years 1 and 2, and a little bit into 3, were really about me learning that I don't have to do it the way other people have done it. And I think I really found my way in my 2nd or 3rd year. So I would say it's been about 2 years of really focusing in on being super intentional, because this was not overnight. All the stuff that I've crafted on like core values, everything was all learned by the first couple of years of learning what I did not want to do, by making mistakes and by iterating. So I would say it was about 2.5 years of feedback, and it's been about 2.5 years of implementing that feedback and making those smaller iterations, where I'm really proud of what we've built. We do have a ways to go into what I envision this being, but it's been awesome.
So now let's talk about creating the podcast, because that seems like one of the real important foundations to your marketing, it sounds like. And then everything else kind of sprout from there. So tell me how that got started.
So that started, I was on social media. I was doing a whole lot and like a lot of different platforms, but I was getting really burnt out and tired from having to create content all the time, to create these little blips that would like get a little attention and then just disappear. And I said, I really need to build a long form strategy. I knew I needed to build more content in one sitting, like build an hour of content and then cut it down later into pieces. I also knew that I am better, let's say on audio. It's like the easiest, lowest barrier for me was podcasting. I knew I had to do like a blog, a podcast, or a YouTube. I said, do I want to be on written, audio, or video? And I just knew that if I had to get dressed and do full makeup before I made a piece of content, I would go insane. So I said, okay, not video. I hate writing. So I said, no blog. And I said, could I get in front of a microphone and talk for an hour on something? Absolutely, I could. So I said, I'm going to go into podcasting, but before I start it, because it's a commitment for consistency, I said, I'm going to go through this exercise. And I worked with my social media manager / podcast manager at the time. And she said, here's what I want you to do, Shan. Go tonight. This is the best exercise too. If you're ever thinking about doing a podcast, this is what you do. She said, go tonight. And I open up an Excel sheet, because I live in Excel, right? Even could have done a Google Doc or whatever, but I open up a spreadsheet, and every row I'm just typing a topic, like a question I could answer. So she says, go through and write down every possible topic, question you can answer, like whatever a post would be or whatever, like your ideas. and just keep writing for like a solid 20, 30 minutes and tell me how many you come up with. I think I came up with like 100 in less than 15 minutes. And I was like, we're done here. Because that was, if you look at one weekly show, that was 2 years of episodes. I wrote down in 15 minutes. And I said, what the hell am I waiting for? Let's just do this. And it was originally going to be an FAQ library. It was actually going to be answers to all those questions so that it would be easier for me to answer those questions by sending an audio clip of me talking for 10 minutes instead of writing DM responses to everyone or sending them somewhere else or having to have a phone call with them. I would say, hey, you guys are DMing me questions or LinkedIn and whatever. I say, hey, listen to this episode. Everything you need to know is here. And it's consistently explained the same way every time I send it because it's the same clip. So it was originally operationally beneficial for me. But then what I realized was that this is actually where I can tap into that personality, tap into like having guests on the show, having, more people listen. And I didn't expect it to take off. I didn't expect people to actually listen to it. I think that was what I was really shocking was like, oh my God, people choose to listen to an accountant talk for 15 minutes at a time on a daily basis. This is insane because we switched to dailies and it hasn't suffered. So I'm like, okay, this is good. But it's just nuts that I think I just tapped into what I knew my strengths were, what I could produce with little barriers, little excuses, just get behind a microphone in my pajamas if I want to at 11 p.m. when I have an idea and talk for 10 minutes and there's an episode. So for me, it was the lowest barrier and it ended up being a really cool marketing tool because I would much rather be in my ideal client's ear for 10 minutes or 20 minutes than in front of them while they're mindlessly scrolling for 20 seconds. And that was a huge pivotal moment when I realized that that's how you build trust and authority is not by the short form content necessarily. That's a great tool for people to find you. But then when they find you, how are they learning from you? How are they consuming more of that content in that long form way where they could really get to know you and resonate with you and have time to let that simmer?
Oh, wow. It was all accidental too. You accidentally grew an audience. And so how did you start getting listeners? What was the first episode when you published it?
Well, my launch strategy was unique in that my podcast launched and I had 20 episodes already. So I launched the podcast with 8 episodes, I think went live on day 1, 8 or 10. And I would recommend anyone do that because then you're allowing people to binge and allowing people to listen to the next episode immediately, kind of like a Netflix thing, like drop the whole season. Drop the whole season so they can listen to it. And then I did like 2 a week for about a month. And then we went into the weeklies. But I had enough in the hold that like we could just launch it. I had enough recorded that we were good for a good period of time. And right out the gate, I want to say when I started advertising it, I used my email list, I used my social media, and I used the networks I was in. I'm in several business communities where there are other entrepreneurs, other accountants, where I would ask people to share. And here's what I did not expect. Well, I kind of hoped for, but I didn't expect. I didn't expect a lot of other accountants to listen to the show because it wasn't really made for them. It's made for the entrepreneur. But the topics became approachable and actually people started sharing my episodes by saying, Shannon actually does a good job of explaining this here, and linked my episode to their audiences. So what I realized was I was actually creating the content that was doing the work for other professionals. And now other professionals were sharing my content to establish their own authority. So in a weird way, I was like, oh, wow, like this is really cool that not only are we supporting each other as professionals, where you're cool sharing my stuff, you agree with it, which gave me more of that encouragement that like, oh, okay, I'm not completely effing this up. Like I wasn't wrong about what I said, because you know how we all get in our heads and insecure of like, I hope I got that right. Every exception to the rule is running through your head like, but it depends. And that's a big barrier for, I think, a lot of accountants to put out content is because they let the it depends monster overtake them.
Yeah. Well, but you were receiving some early validation from other accountants, which is, look what that does to your confidence level too. Like, if it would be one thing if accountants were throwing stones at it saying, oh, this is garbage, like the TikToks that we all see and like the other stuff. But in this case, you're getting extra validation from accountants because they're sharing it with their clients too. That's got to be encouraging. So tell me about finding some of your first clients through this, or how you started leveraging this. Now you're starting to grow a fan base, but also this is a good lead flow for clients.
It is, but I'm going to tell you, this is actually how I was able to leverage it more so, that by being a podcast host, you are now sort of, it's like being that kid in high school that had the house where the parents were always gone over the weekend. It's like everyone wants to hang out there because you have a space, you have a stage, you take up space in the world right here. And so a lot of folks will come to me and say, "Can I be on your show?" So you now have it's like the kid with the cool house. It's like now everyone wants to be their friend, right? So you have something that people want. So now people are looking to come on your show. Vice versa, a lot of podcast hosts will also be more inclined to say yes to someone who wants to come on their show if they also host a show, because it kind of says something that, okay, I'm not going to be a crappy interview. Like I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. It's a little bit more of a secure yes. Plus, it makes you more confident behind the microphone for guesting episodes. And why I'm bringing that up is because I would say 80% of my clients so far have come from me being a guest on other podcasts. That is the number one strategy for us to generate business for the fractional CFO practice. It's not social media content necessarily. I think there's a lot of social media presence we have to back up the brand, but I don't think that is a great way to focus your attention if you're looking to get high dollar, high value clients. I don't think they're hanging out on Instagram as much. I think they are listening to audiobooks, they're listening to podcasts, they're trying to get new strategy ideas and absorb that and let it really simmer. Like they might be at the gym or walking and be listening to these shows from people who have authority in their space, getting ideas. And you want to start aligning yourself with those people who have the audience. You want to align with people who are seen as an authority in the space you want to go after, because you can borrow their trust. You can borrow their authority for 20 minutes at a time, 30 minutes, an hour. And you can sit there and have a conversation with them. I've had several. I was on a very large podcast this year. It has millions of followers. And I was able to get, 3 clients out of that show, whether they be CFO clients or they came in for a power session or something like that. That show has generated a massive return. And there have been several over my career that have generated massive returns. So I would say, if you're not incorporating a podcast guesting strategy in your existing strategy as a practitioner, you are missing out on a gold mine right now, especially because there is a seasonality to people wanting to hear what we have to say. And if you're not airing right now, if your voice isn't being heard on 7 or 8 podcasts between February and April, you're missing out on a massive, massive opportunity.
So not only starting your own and opening your house up to parties, but also attending other parties in the space too. Yeah. So show up at the other parties, and those are the other podcasts. Show up at the other hosts. And do you have anybody that tries to book you as a guest, or are you doing that yourself, or is it through your own network that you've created?
I'd say there's kind of a 3-prong approach to it. One is I know what shows are really popular and what shows I want to get on, and I target those, and me and my team will outright pitch, or I will engage with that host and I will find a way to get into their circle, right? Find a way to get recommended to them by someone else who's been on my show or someone else who I know, and I will try to find a way to get on that show. The other way, number 2, is you can actually pay to get on certain shows. You can actually pay to play. Number 3 is I could also, because I have a show that does pretty well that I've built up, I can invite the host to come on my show first, because it's more likely, like Scott and I, if I said, "Hey, can I come to your house?" It's like, whoa, like I didn't invite you over. Chill out.
I'm having a party this weekend. Come to my party.
Yeah. But if I said, "Hey, Scott, come on over. I'll make some snacks, whatever." It's like, why would you say no to that? You don't have to do any work. There is no risk to you, just a little bit of your time. What could go wrong, right? This person seems kind of cool. I can go over her house and see if she's cool first. Because most likely, if we have a really good interview, what happens at the end, and this is the thing, you have to be a good interviewer. But at the end of the interview, they say, "Hey, I'd love to have you on my show." I didn't pitch them. But if they had a good experience, then typically the thing you do after you have a really cool experience at one person's house is go, "Next time I'm hosting," right? Like next time it's on me, come over my house next week. Because there's kind of this like unsung reciprocity thing of, yep, I had a really good time with you. I want a second date. This time I'm going to host it. So if you're really confident in your abilities, then I say invite them over first, because you can show them that it's going to be a good interview.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's dope too. I think I subconsciously do a lot of these things. I don't think I'm doing them intentionally. This is great. This is great stuff. So, how do you handle the clients? How do they reach out to you? Do you have a client intake form? Because it sounds like you're getting
Yep.
inbound leads through a lot of this too. It's not that you're reaching out to people and you're getting all these inbound. How do you handle that?
So we have the inbound process. So we have a client intake form and we ask certain basic questions. We try to keep it as slim as possible to get enough information without making it a burden to the person. This is a big challenge. And what we do is our intake process is basically they submit the form. Me and my team review it to see what type of client they're a good candidate for, what type of offer. So are they making enough money to afford our fractional CFO service? If they're not, we might send them down the channel of looking at a power session with me, which is a one-time buy, or maybe our lower cost membership for early stage business owners. We kind of have for every client in their journey, we have these different stops along the way with a corresponding offer based on where they're at in their own business. So we would make a suggestion based on that through tagging them in our system, and they get emails to schedule a call with me, or they might get an email with a suggested path to take. That's how it kind of plays out from there.
How do you say no to the people that aren't a good fit?
We never say no. We say not yet. It's never a no. It's a not yet, not now, or this is what I think you need right now. And here are some recommendations of what you can follow. So even if they're not a fractional CFO partner, like they're not going to be a fractional CFO client, we align with really good bookkeepers and tax pros who are really good at what they do and align with my values, where I now recommend the person that they should work with right now in their business. They say, hey, I can't serve you in this way. What you really need is somebody like this person. And they're really good. And I love working with them. And they're going to take good care of you until you're ready to hire me.
So you have that list on your website too. You're still taking care of them. It's not like you're letting them out to dry or just actually closing the door on them. You're keeping the door open a crack for when they're ready.
And from like a revenue standpoint, we're working on a system where those will consistently provide referral fees to be one of those like recommended providers. So we're going to be getting fees from the recommended providers, and we'll be supporting along the way too, where those providers could actually come to me for questions. So in a way, I'm indirectly teaming with them to serve that client too. So there's going to be a whole ecosystem where I can basically not have to do the basic work of the bookkeeping and the taxes. I do not want to do it. I know we could. I don't want to. It's by choice. But there are plenty of people who love, eat, breathe, drink that work. And I say, I want to support that. And I want you to do that for those clients and take good care of them until they hit this level where we can take care of them. And will they eventually reach that? Maybe, maybe not. But I would like to be part of their journey and still feel like I am contributing to their success in some way, even if we're not literally doing their taxes.
Yeah, yeah. So for the student that is listening that is afraid of going on a podcast or talking by themselves in a microphone or that gets shy, what's some advice we can give them?
I think that people underestimate their ability to do this because they do it with their clients all the time. And I think if you were to, let's just say it's literally the podcast example. And for you, it might be a blog, it might be a video, but whatever you're comfortable with.
Somebody might not do the comfortable with the audio. I love when you said that, the audio, the written and the verbal, because you have options.
Yeah, you do. So you pick the medium that is the least path of resistance for you. If it makes you uncomfortable to get behind a microphone, then don't do it. If it makes you uncomfortable to get in front of a camera, don't do it. Maybe written is your way to go. And maybe you can do really good blog posts, and maybe you can turn those into really good social media clips. Like you could post clips of them as carousels on Instagram or whatever. Like you can do whatever form you want to. Whatever you're going to be consistent with is what you should be doing. But for me, it was audio. For you, it might be written. And what I would suggest you do is you figure out, like I said, you write down for 30 straight minutes, all the topics that you could possibly, all the questions you could possibly answer for someone, and go, you have the answers to those questions in your brain. How do you share them with the world? What is the fastest way for you to get that information out to the world so that people can benefit from it? And do it in the name of service, in that alone, with no expectation. That is the key. Just do it because you know this information needs to get out in the world. Do it in your unique way. Think about how you learned it. Think about how you could compare it to some lived experience, like an analogy, and it's going to resonate with people and they're going to be more attracted to you as an authority. It's not just about educating them and making them accountants and going on LinkedIn and posting these like accounting cheat sheets or whatever. I go, that's not made for clients. You have to do it in a way that the client will truly understand and relate to. And that, I think, is one of the bigger challenges, is focusing on that more so than the, oh, I need to include all the details in my post about this tax strategy. No, just provoke curiosity, say a few facts about it, and elaborate later.
Yeah, that's the one thing we get caught up in, is being the expert and showing that off. And it's not a good look. People get bored when we start talking the accountant talk and we start talking about too much of what we do. Then all of a sudden we become the accountant. It's not for that intended audience. Accountants like that. We tend to scoop that up. But this has all been so valuable, Shannon. Thank you so much for coming on. I learned a lot here. I know our students did too. Where can they find you more of? Where can they listen to your podcast, or how can they learn more?
So we're on all the podcast platforms. We're on Apple. Well, now Google's gone, but Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify.
And it's the Keep What You Earn.
Keep What You Earn.
Podcast.
Keep What You Earn. Yep. And you can find us on all of those. And actually, we're just about to launch Conserva lo que Ganas, which is my podcast in Spanish.
Look at that, full circle.
Full freaking circle, man. We're going Conserva lo que Ganas. We're going to be going for it. We're actually taking some of my best solo episodes and putting them into Spanish for our audience. I'm really excited to serve that side of the community. This is like really bringing it full circle in my heart, because I'm like, this is so cool. I can tap into everything I love at the same time and actually have my friends here in Costa Rica be able to listen to my show. So I'm really excited about that. And obviously, and we also do YouTube as well. So if you are a fan of watching instead of listening, you can tune into our YouTube channel, which is also Keep What You Earn.
Do you win the bet at the end of the day if you start teaching Spanish and finance?
Yeah. I think I won the bet a long time ago, but I think Dad also won the bet, because he definitely convinced me of everything he wanted for me. He basically got. And little side note into that story was he passed in 2013 before any of this ever happened.
Well, he's looking down on you now, and he sees that it was all predetermined. He knew how this would go for you anyway, because when you're a little kid, he probably saw you were an accountant. Like that was it probably, you have some traits, I'm sure. I see a lot of it because we have a lot of similarities too. So It's just the way that we're wired. We were born to be an accountant. We were born to speak this language. I think maybe we were fluent as kids too. Maybe your dad saw that you were already fluent in this and you already breathed it. So I think that's awesome. Everybody check out Shannon's podcast. It's dope. And go back, rewind, and listen to this again. She taught some super dope things today. Class is dismissed.